Find the derivative of g of x equals secant squared of x times tangent cubed of x. G of x here is the product of two functions, secant squared x times tangent cubed x. We will therefore make use of the product rule for the derivative. But before we do that, let's rewrite these. Secant squared x means secant x and then square, and tangent cubed x means tangent x and then cubed. It's important to remember it's in that order to show us how to take the derivative of each of those terms. We start with their power rule, then we deal with the trig function. Each of them will involve a chain rule. Overall, though, we have a product rule for the derivative g prime of x. And the product rule is the derivative of the first, secant x to the square. We start with the square. We bring the 2 down. We leave the inside alone. We subtract 1 from the 2. That gives us a 1. And then we multiply by the derivative of the inside. The derivative of secant is secant tangent. All of that's the derivative of the first times the second left alone. And then we add to it the first left alone, so secant x squared, times the derivative of the second. In the second, we will bring down the 3. We will leave the inside of that alone, subtract 1 from it, then multiply by the derivative of the inside to complete the chain rule for that. Now the derivative of the tangent is secant squared to complete our chain rule. So g prime of x here equals 2. The first term, we have a 2. We have 2 secants multiplying each other. That'll be secant squared. And we have a tangent and a tangent cubed. That will be, altogether adding them, 4 tangents. So tangent to the 4th of x plus. In the next term, we have a constant 3 that can move to the front. We have a total of 2 secants and 2 more secants. Secant to the 4th when you add those exponents of x. And we have 2 tangents right there, so tangent squared of x. The next thing we can do is factor common factors out of here. It's all about the lowest power of trig functions. We won't be able to factor out any constants. A 2 and a 3 don't have a common factor. But there is powers of trig functions in each term. And it's all about the lowest power. Here's the secants. We have a power of 2 and a power of 4. We can factor out a power of 2 then. So I will have secant squared of x times, we will have the 2 left over. Now if I take out secant squared, that'll take out all of that, and it will take out 2 of the 4 here, leaving 2 there. That should be what we have left in the brackets. So let's write that down, and that'll be 2 tangent to the 4th of x plus 3. We'll have 2 secants left over here, and then tangent squared. In the next step, we can factor out a power of tangent. We have 4 powers here and 2 powers here. So we can factor out the lower, which is 2 powers. If we factor out 2 powers from it, it'll look like this. For the first one, we will be taking away 2 of the 4. That'll leave 2. And for the second one, we'll be taking out all of them. So that should be what we have left over when we do that. And so we will have 2 tangent squared of x plus 3 secant squared of x. And there's the factored version of our derivative, g prime of x.